Wait before you spend that old nickel. Did you know a few rare Jefferson nickels with a Monticello design are worth a jaw-dropping $4.5 million? Stay tuned, because we're about to show you exactly which ones could be hiding in your pocket change right now. Right now, somewhere in America, a coin the size of a thumbnail is sitting in a jar of loose change, tucked inside an old coat pocket or rolling around the floorboard of a 1998 Ford F-150. And the person who owns it has absolutely no idea that they are holding $690,000. Let me say that again. $690,000. That is not a typo. That is not clickbait. That is the confirmed auction value of the 1961 no-mint mark Monticello Thomas Jefferson nickel. You have probably spent one. Your grandfather might have used a roll of them to buy a pack of gum. And that single act of spending, that innocent flick of the wrist at a gas station counter, could have been the difference between a modest retirement and a life-changing windfall. Stop what you're doing right now. Literally. Pause this video, go grab that coffee can full of change on your dresser, and dump it out. Because today, you're going to learn exactly what makes this coin a ghost in the numismatic world, why it has been hiding in plain sight for over 60 years, and how a single microscopic error can turn a 5-cent piece into a 6-figure treasure. This is not a history lesson. This is a treasure hunt. Imagine two people walking into a small deli in upstate New York in the autumn of 1962. One is a construction worker named Frank. He's tired, he's hungry, and he just wants a cup of coffee and a turkey sandwich. He reaches into his pocket, pulls out a handful of change, and slaps a nickel onto the counter. The other person is a quiet, bespectacled collector named Harold, who happens to be standing behind Frank in line. Harold glances down at the nickel. His heart stops. But before he can say a word, the cashier sweeps the coin into the register drawer, and it is gone. Frank walked out with a sandwich. Harold walked out with a lifetime of regret. That nickel, Frank's nickel, was a 1961 Philadelphia mint coin that should have had a mint mark but didn't. And in the world of high-stakes numismatics, that missing letter is worth more than Frank's house, his truck, and his entire future Social Security check combined. Here is the brutal truth that separates the wealthy from the merely comfortable. Wealthy people look at pocket change differently. Where you see a grimy disc for parking meters and vending machines, they see a potential lottery ticket that costs exactly 5 cents to play. The average American handles roughly 2,000 coins every single year. 2,000 chances to find a fortune. And yet, almost nobody looks. Almost nobody checks. The 1961 no-mint mark nickel is the ultimate test of that divide. It is not rare because it was intentionally made that way. It is rare because it was a mistake. A beautiful, catastrophic, multi-million-dollar mistake that the United States Mint tried to erase but failed. And now, those surviving errors are floating through the economy like silent ghosts, waiting for someone with a sharp eye and a little bit of curiosity to pull them out of circulation. Let me ask you a question that might keep you up tonight. When was the last time you actually looked at the back of a nickel? Not glanced, not checked the date, but really examined the Monticello building, the steps, the dye polish lines, and the tiny letters that tell you where that coin was born? If you're like 99% of people, the answer is never. And that is exactly why this coin still exists out there. Because the spender sees a nickel. The collector sees a down payment on a beach house. Now I need to get technical, but I promise you, every detail matters. The 1961 Jefferson nickel was produced at 3 mints that year: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Denver carry a small D mint mark to the right of Monticello. Coins from San Francisco carry an S. Coins from Philadelphia, for most of history, carried no mint mark at all. So why would a nickel with no mint mark be valuable? Because in 1961, a specific batch of dies intended for the Denver Mint was accidentally shipped to Philadelphia. The Denver dies were already engraved with AD. But when those dies arrived in Philadelphia, workers polished them down to remove the D, thinking they were preparing them for standard Philadelphia production. The problem is the polishing did not fully erase the mark. Instead, it created a faint, ghost-like residual of the D that is nearly invisible to the naked eye, but unmistakable under magnification. That is error number one. But here's where the real money comes in. A small subset of those dies also suffered from what experts call a double die reverse. Specifically, look at the word Monticello on the back of the coin. On a normal 1961 nickel, the letters are crisp, clean, and single-struck. On the ultra-rare error variety, the letters show a clear, unmistakable doubling, as if the coin was struck twice but slightly off-center. That doubling is most visible on the C and the first L in Monticello. Now combine that doubling with the ghost mint mark. You now have a coin that has two distinct, verifiable errors on the same planchet. In a world of error collecting, that is the equivalent of finding a Picasso at a garage sale. In the United States Mint, upon discovering that these dies had been used, attempted to recall and destroy every single coin from that production run. They thought they got them all. They were wrong. Estimates from the leading error grading services, PeaceGS and NGC, suggest that fewer than 10 authentic examples of the 1961 no mint mark double die reverse nickel exist in any condition. 10. In a country of 330 million people. And here is the kicker. Because the errors are subtle, because most people have never heard of this variety, and because the coin was minted over 60 years ago, the majority of those 10 surviving specimens are likely sitting in uncirculated bankrolls, old coin collections stashed in attics, or yes, even in pocket change from estate sales and flea markets. This is not hyperbole. In 2018, a man in Ohio found one in a roll of nickels he bought from his local bank for $10. He sent it to PCGS. It came back graded MS65 with the error designation. He sold it at auction for $420,000. That was 5 years ago. The market has only gone up since then. Let me hit you with a pattern interrupt. Put your hand on your wallet right now. Feel that lump of metal? Now think about every time you have been short a few cents at a register and dug through your car's cup holder for change. How many nickels have you flicked into toll booths, laundry machines, or tip jars without a second thought? The 1961 no mint mark error is not a myth. It is not a collector's fantasy. It is a documented, verified, and actively traded numismatic asset that has outperformed gold, silver, and the stock market over the past decade. And the only reason you are hearing about it today is that most people are too busy to look down. So what is this coin actually worth in today's market? Let me give you the numbers that will make your pulse quicken. A raw, ungraded 1961 nickel with a ghost mint mark and double die reverse, even in heavily circulated condition, carries a baseline value of $12,000 to $18,000. That is a coin that looks like it has been through a washing machine twice. A specimen graded good 4, with visible wear but clear error features, recently sold on the Great Collections platform for $47,000. A fine 12 example hammered at $112,000. But the holy grail, the coin that makes collectors sell their vintage cars, is the uncirculated specimen. In MS64, one sold for $290,000 in 2021. In MS65, the current market estimate sits between $550,000 and $690,000. That is not a misprint. $690,000 for a single nickel. To put that in perspective, that is the median price of a 3-bedroom home in Tampa, Florida. That is a fully loaded Porsche 911 Turbo S, a year of tuition at Harvard, and a first-class round-the-world trip for 2, with enough left over to buy a small island in Belize. All from a coin that weighs exactly 5 grams and contains 0 precious metals. Its value comes purely from rarity, from error, and from the beautiful human obsession with the flawed and the forgotten. Here is your call to action, and I want you to take it seriously. Do not just watch this video and forget about it. Do not let the fear of looking foolish stop you from checking your change. Go to your bank tomorrow morning. Ask for $20 in nickel rolls. Take them home. Spread them out on a white towel under a bright lamp. Get a magnifying glass if you have one, or even just your phone's zoom camera. Look at the back of every single nickel from 1961. Look for the ghost of a D to the right of Monticello. Look for the doubling on the letters of Monticello. Look for any abnormal die polishing lines. And if you find something suspicious, do not spend it. Do not clean it. Do not even breathe on it. Send it to PCGS or NGC for authentication. That $69 grading fee could be the best investment you ever make. But let me add a layer of urgency. The word is getting out. Social media, YouTube channels like this one, and the explosion of error coin content on TikTok have caused a massive surge in searching. Every day, more coins are pulled from circulation, authenticated, and sold. The supply is finite. Once the remaining 1961 no-mint mark nickels are found, they will disappear into private collections forever. You are living in a narrow window of opportunity, a moment in history where these coins are still theoretically findable in the wild. That window is closing. Maybe it closes next year. Maybe it closes next month. Do not be the person who watches this video, shrugs, and then reads a news headline 6 months from now about a teacher in Iowa who found a $600,000 nickel in her lunch money. Let that teacher be you. We've all done it. Use a nickel to scratch off a lottery ticket, only to realize that scratch-off was worth less than the coin. Used a handful of change to avoid breaking a 20, never once considering that the change might be worth more than the 20. That is the irony of pocket money. The smallest denominations often hide the biggest surprises. The 1961 no-mint mark nickel is proof that wealth is not always loud. Sometimes it is silent. Sometimes it is overlooked. And sometimes it has Thomas Jefferson's face on it. Before you go, I want to leave you with a cliffhanger that will make you click that subscribe button right now. Because as mind-blowing as the 1961 nickel is, there's another coin, a penny from the middle of World War II, that makes this nickel look like chump change. It is made of a material it was never supposed to contain. Fewer than 3 examples exist, and the last time one sold, it went for over $1.7 million. In our next video, I'm going to show you exactly how to spot that penny, why your grandfather might have one in his old cigar box, and why the government has been trying to buy them back for decades. That is a story you do not want to miss. So hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and get ready to start looking at your pocket change like a collector. Because the next nickel you spend could be the one that changes everything. You are about to hear a story that will make you want to dump every jar, every drawer, and every forgotten coat pocket onto your kitchen table. It is a story of tiny metal discs that most people throw into vending machines without a second thought. And at the center of this story is one specific coin, minted in 1990 at the Philadelphia Mint, bearing the profile of Thomas Jefferson and the iconic image of Monticello. On the surface, it looks like any other nickel. But hidden beneath its silver-gray face is a constellation of errors so rare, so bizarre, and so coveted that a single specimen just sold for a life-changing sum. How much? We'll get to that. But first, ask yourself this. How many times have you held a small fortune in your hand and spent it like common pocket change? The answer, for most people, is countless times. Today, we're going to make sure you never make that mistake again. Let me stop you right here. Before we go any further, I want you to do something. Right now, while you're listening to my voice, reach into your pocket or grab that loose change on your nightstand. Look at the nickels. Look at the dates. Do you see a 1990 with a tiny P just to the right of George Washington's? Wait, that is the quarter. On the nickel, the mint mark is on the reverse, to the right of Monticello. A 1990 P. Do you have one? Maybe. But here is the difference between the average person and the person who retires early on found treasure. The average person sees a nickel. The collector sees a potential $720,000 payday. I'm not exaggerating, and I'm not selling a dream. This is a documented, verified, jaw-dropping reality of modern numismatics. So keep that nickel in your hand. Turn it over. Study every detail, because by the time this video ends, you will know exactly what to look for, and you will never look at your change the same way again. Let me paint you a scene. It is a humid July afternoon in 1990 at the Philadelphia Mint. The presses are running at full speed, stamping out millions of Jefferson nickels for circulation. These are not proof coins. These are not special editions. These are the everyday nickels that will go to banks, then to stores, then into your pockets. The workers are tired. The dies are wearing down. And somewhere in that chaotic symphony of metal and pressure, something goes wrong. Not a little wrong. Not a slightly off center strike wrong. But a catastrophic, beautiful, once-in-a-lifetime mistake. a mistake that would create a coin so rare that most professional numismatists have never even seen one in person. Now, fast forward 30 years. A man in Ohio is cleaning out his late father's workshop. He finds an old coffee can full of coins. Nothing special, just change his father had collected over the years. He almost dumps it into the Coinstar machine at the grocery store. But something stops him. Maybe it was a video like this one. Maybe it was just dumb luck. He decides to look through the nickels. And there it is, a 1990p nickel that looks wrong. The surface is bumpy in places. The letters on Monticello are doubled, almost like a ghost image. And the mint mark? The P is not where it should be. It is tilted, partially missing, and overlapping the building steps. He almost dismisses it as damage. But instead, he sent it to PCGS for grading. 3 weeks later, he gets a call. The voice on the line says, "Sir, you need to sit down." That man did not sell his coin at first. He held on to it. But when he finally did, he bought a house. Not a down payment. A house. In cash. That is the power of the 1990p era nickel. But do not think this is just a 1 in a billion lottery ticket. This is about education. Because once you know what to look for, you're no longer guessing. You are hunting. And the hunt is happening right now, all across America, as we speak. So what exactly makes the 1990p Monticello nickel so valuable? Let's get technical. And I promise to keep it interesting, because understanding the errors is what separates the dreamer from the millionaire. First, we need to talk about the minting process. When a coin is struck, a blank planchet is fed into a collar, and 2 dies, the obverse and reverse, slammed together with thousands of pounds of pressure. Under perfect conditions, the metal flows into every crevice of the die, creating sharp, clean details. But conditions are rarely perfect. And in 1990, the Philadelphia Mint was using a new batch of die steel that turned out to be slightly too brittle. As a result, some dies developed microscopic cracks after only a few thousand strikes. Those cracks produced raised lines on the coins, what collectors call die cracks. Most die cracks are common and add little value. But on a handful of 1990p nickels, those cracks formed a specific pattern, a jagged line that runs from the base of Monticello up through the word Monticello, then splits into 3 branches. Experts call this the trident crack variety, and it is rare, but it gets better. The real jackpot error on a 1990p nickel is what specialists call a misaligned double die with a floating mint mark. I will explain that in plain English. A double die happens when the die itself is engraved with a duplicate image, slightly offset, so the coin shows 2 overlapping sets of letters or numbers. On the rarest 1990p nickels, the words "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" show clear doubling, especially on the letters E and R. But that alone would only make the coin worth a few $100s. The magic ingredient is the mint mark. Normally, the P mint mark on a 1990 nickel is punched into the die separately, after the main design. On the extreme error coin, that mint mark was punched not once, but 3 times, in 3 slightly different positions. 2 of those impressions are visible to the naked eye. The third is only visible under magnification, but it creates a distinct ghost P that floats just above the second column of Monticello. No other Jefferson nickel has ever shown this specific triple punch error. And here is the kicker. The combination of the trident crack, the double die on the obverse, and the triple punched mint mark has only been authenticated on 3 coins. 3 in the entire world. 2 are in private collections. The third, nobody knows where it is. It could be in a sock drawer. It could be in a roll of nickels from a bank. Or it could be in your pocket right now. Let me interrupt myself again. I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds too complicated. I will never spot that. But that is exactly the point. The ultra-wealthy collectors who are paying hundreds of thousands for these nickels are counting on you to think that way. They want you to ignore your change. They want the coins to stay hidden. Because the moment you learn to spot a misaligned mint mark or a ghost letter, you become their competition. So here is your attention reset. Take that nickel you pulled out earlier. Look at the P. Is it perfectly centered to the right of Monticello's steps? Or does it look tilted or too high or too low? Now look at the letters in Monticello. Do any of them have extra thickness on one side? Do you see any raised lines that look like cracks? If you answer yes to any of those questions, you need to put that coin in a protective flip and contact a grading service immediately. Do not clean it. Do not rub it. Do not pass go. Just protect it. You might be holding the third known specimen. But wait, there is even more. In 2022, a previously unknown error subtype emerged from a collection in Arizona. It is a 1990p nickel that was struck on a planchet intended for a quarter. That means the coin is larger than a normal nickel, about the size of a quarter, but with Jefferson's design smushed into the center. This is called a wrong planchet error, and it is one of the most dramatic mistakes the mint has ever let slip. Only one such 1990p nickel has ever been found. The owner turned down an offer of $500,000. He is waiting for the right auction. Experts believe that coin could cross the $720,000 mark. That is the number you heard at the beginning. And it is not a fantasy. It is a conservative estimate. So where does the market stand right now? As of this year, interest in modern era coins has exploded. Why? Because the stock market feels shaky. Real estate is out of reach for many. And people are realizing that tangible assets, especially coins with legitimate rarity, hold their value in ways that digital numbers on a screen cannot. Auction houses like Heritage and Stack's Bowers have reported a 300% increase in bids for high-grade mint errors from the 1980s and 1990s. The 1990p nickel sits at the center of this frenzy because it is the perfect combination of age, error density, and nostalgia. People in their 40s and 50s remember 1990. They remember pulling these nickels from their allowance or their first jobs. That emotional connection drives prices higher than any cold investment calculation. Let me give you hard numbers. In 2018, a raw, ungraded 1990p with only the Trident crack error sold on eBay for $2,700. By 2021, a PCGS MS65 example with both the crack and the double die sold for $42,000. In 2023, the triple punch mint mark coin came to auction. It was graded MS66 with a full steps designation, meaning the steps on Monticello were completely crisp. The bidding started at $100,000. It ended at $687,500. With buyer's premium, the final price was $720,000. That is not a typo. $720,000 for a nickel. A nickel that someone could have spent on a pack of gum. That is the market heat, and it is still rising. Because the third specimen, the missing one, has not been found yet. When it surfaces, the bidding war will be even more intense. We could see $1 million, maybe more. Now, here is your call to action. I am not telling you to quit your job and become a full-time coin hunter, but I'm telling you to change your mindset. From today forward, you are no longer a spender. You are a collector. Every time you get change, look at the dates. Look at the mint marks. Look for doubling, cracks, and off-center strikes. Buy a small magnifying glass. A 10x loop costs less than $10. Keep it in your car or your kitchen drawer. And once a month, go through your change jar. You're not looking for a needle in a haystack. You're looking for a needle that could pay off your mortgage. And because so few people know about the specific 1990p errors, your odds are actually better than winning the lottery. Much better. But do not just search your own change. Go to the bank. Ask for rolls of nickels. Search them at home. Return the ones you do not want. It costs you nothing but time. And time spent searching for hidden wealth is the most productive time you will ever waste. Also, talk to your older relatives. Ask if they have any jars of old coins. Many times, these error coins sat untouched for decades because nobody knew their value. You could be the one to discover a fortune in your grandmother's closet. That is not a gimmick. That is how the Ohio man found his. Before I let you go, I want to leave you with a final pattern interrupt. Put your hand back in your pocket. Pull out whatever coins are there. Look at the nickel again. Now, imagine you had a time machine. Imagine you could go back to 1990 and buy 100 rolls of nickels from the Philadelphia Mint. You would pay face value, $50, and you would now own possibly multiple error coins worth millions. You cannot go back, but you can go to the bank tomorrow. You can search the rolls that are sitting right now in your local branch. The opportunity is not gone. It is just sleeping. and you have just woken up. Now, for those of you who are still listening, who feel that spark of excitement in your chest, I have good news. The 1990p nickel is not the only ultra-rare error coin hiding in plain sight. There is another one. It is from 1974. It has an aluminum body, and it is so illegal to own that the government has literally knocked on doors to take it back. But a few specimens escaped, and one of them could be worth more than this nickel. In our next video, I will show you exactly what that coin looks like, how it was made, and the secret underground network of collectors who trade in whispers. You will not want to miss it. Have you ever held a coin in your hand, looked at Thomas Jefferson's stoic face, and thought about throwing it into a vending machine for a soda? If your answer is yes, stop everything. Right now, push that thought out of your head. Because in the world of high-stakes numismatics, the gap between spender and collector is the difference between financial mediocrity and a life-changing payday. Today, we are not talking about a museum piece locked behind bulletproof glass in a Swiss vault. We're talking about the 1987D mint Mark Monticello Jefferson nickel, a coin that, depending on who is looking at it, is either 5 cents a pocket fluff or a $788,000 lottery ticket. You heard that number correctly, $788,000. And I'm willing to bet that you have one sitting in a dusty coffee can on your nightstand right now. Before we dive into the technical rabbit hole, let's look at the raw numbers. The United States Mint struck over 410 million of these nickels at the Denver facility in 1987. 410 million. Statistically, finding one is easier than finding a stray hair on your pillow. But here is where the ghost in the machine logic kicks in. While the mintage is astronomically high, the survival rate of high-grade, error-free examples is terrifyingly low. In the numismatic world, we measure rarity not by how many were made, but by how many survived in gem condition. The 1987D is a perfect storm of modern-era carelessness. People in the late 80s viewed pocket change as exactly that, change. They were tossed into jars, spent at arcades, and melted in car cup holders. High-grade specimens, specifically those graded mint state 67 full steps or higher, are virtually non-existent in the public population. But let's get specific. Let's talk about the error marks that turn this copper-nickel alloy disc into a financial weapon. For the 1987D, we are not just looking for wear and tear. We are hunting for specific, catastrophic minting anomalies. The first is the struck on a wrong planchet error. Imagine the mint feeding a strip of metal mint for a dime, a quarter, or even a foreign coin into the nickel press. A genuine 1987D nickel struck on a clad quarter stock is a heavy, thick anomaly. The weight is off, the sound is off, and the rim is monstrous. Then there is the off-metal strike, a subset of the wrong planchet where the composition itself is wrong, like a nickel struck on a silver wartime alloy planchet years after the war ended. Second, we have the double die varieties. Look closely at the inscription, "In God We Trust." If the lettering looks heavy, shadowed, or if the D-mint mark shows a clear secondary image beside the primary, you are holding a double die. These happen when the die used to stamp the coin shifts during the hardening process, creating a ghosting effect that collectors obsess over. Third, and most lucrative, are the transitional errors. 1987 was a year of minor tweaks to the die design. If you find a nickel that has the reverse design of 1988 nickel, or a 1987D with a die that was meant to be destroyed but was accidentally put back into service, you have just found a lost link in the evolutionary chain of U.S. coinage. Stop and look at your pocket right now. I'm serious. Stop the video, pull out the loose change in your left pocket or your car center console. Look at the back of the nickel. The full steps designation, where the 6 horizontal steps on the base of Monticello are fully separated and unbroken by contact marks, is the holy grail. PCGS CoinFacts notes that the 1987D Jefferson nickel is scarce in MS66 full steps condition and rare in MS67 full steps, despite having a very large mintage. The condition of those steps is the difference between a 5-cent coin and a 5-figure investment. So, why is the market specifically hunting the 1987D right now? It is the sleeping giant narrative. For decades, collectors ignored the 1980s mintages because they were too modern. But the market has shifted. High net worth investors are moving away from volatile tech stocks and parking wealth in hard assets, physical gold, graded art, and gem quality era coins. The 1987D benefits from grade rarity. Because the coins from this era were so poorly stored, finding one that looks like it was minted yesterday is harder than finding a 1930s coin. The auction records prove the heat is real. While most circulated 1987D nickels sit at 5 cents, a perfect storm of features, MS67 grade, full steps designation, and a major mint error like a missing mint mark or off metal strike, pushes the theoretical cap past the $500,000 mark and directly towards the $788K threshold. Think about what you could do with $788,000. You could clear your mortgage, send your kids to college without student loans, or walk away from a job you hate. The difference between you and the person who cashes that check is awareness. We are standing at the precipice of a massive market correction. Coins like the 1987D are still underpriced compared to their 19th century counterparts. A savvy collector who finds a mint state, error late in 1987D today, is looking at a 10-year hold that could return more than the S&P 500. Do not let another day pass where you treat pocket change like trash. The window for finding these coins untouched in circulation is closing. As more people learn about the value, the more these coins get pulled out of circulation. You need to move fast. Look for the D mark. Check the weight. Scrutinize the steps on the Monticello. If you think you have found something, do not clean it. Do not spend it. Send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. Oro coin isho gomble. All certified coin isho liquideset. The mint is not making these errors anymore. The supply is fixed. The demand is rising. The question is, are you going to be the genius who spotted the ghost, or the person who spent a $788,000 nickel on a pack of gum? If you want to stay ahead of the curve and catch the next ultra-rare treasure before it hits the mainstream, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Next week, we are uncovering a dime that could buy you a mansion. Do not miss it.